Welcome back, everybody, to the New York Knicks, MyNBA franchise, here on NBA 2K23. Today we will be wrapping up the offseason as we go through everything in between the draft and the start of the season, specifically free agency, which is really what we're going to spend a lot of today's episode on, so it should be a pretty fun one. Last episode, we went over the NBA draft, and there were certainly no shortage of fireworks. We had plenty of big-time trades, most notably DeAndre Ayton on the move to the Pelicans, along with guys like Terry Rozier, Gordon Hayward, Derek White, Michael Porter Jr., and Yusuf Nurkic also finding new homes. Obviously, the main focus, however, was the draft itself, and we had plenty of surprises, including Jaden Lewis-Cameron going number 1 over Christopher Killebrew. Our Knicks, meanwhile, added 6 new rookies, 3 in the first round, 3 in the second round, with our top pick being Italian point guard Cesar DiCarlo. A lot of people didn't seem to agree with the pick, largely because of DiCarlo's injury history. He is coming off a torn Achilles and probably will miss the first half of the season. A lot of people didn't agree with choosing him over Levi Beauregard, and I get it. Beauregard is a good player. But I am very excited about Cesar DiCarlo, along with the rest of our rookie class going forward. We drafted Patrick Feinstein and Ahmed Kabongo with our late 2 first-round picks. And then in round 2, we picked Jackson Watkins, Splash Mayo, who also has a long-term injury, and Dominic Cherry. I think we really got good value with all of our selections, and I think a few of these guys hopefully will be here for the long haul. So that'll bring us to where we are now, going into free agency. We have 2 free agents this summer, with Carmelo Anthony being unrestricted and Cam Reddish entering restricted free agency. We have 4 players on team options, that being Emmanuel Quickley, Zeke Naji, Christian Grimes, and Trevor Keels, all 4 of which would be accepted, so they'll be back for next season. As for the rest of the league, there were a number of notable players who declined their player options, including James Harden, Chris Middleton, and Kristaps Porzingis, who will headline what is expected to be a weaker free agent crop. A lot of the already really good restricted guys like Ja and Zion have already signed their extensions, RJ Barrett as well, and there just really aren't that many stars on the market this offseason. We will be giving Cam Reddish the qualifying offer. He is a player I would like to bring back. As we take a look at the free agency class, it is led by Kyrie Irving, James Harden, Chris Middleton, Kristaps Porzingis, and others. There isn't a whole ton of star power in here, and at the top, there aren't really many guys who I'm that interested in for the New York Knicks. I'm not going to pay someone just to pay someone. I don't think a guy like Kyrie or Harden would be a great fit for what I'm trying to build here. Our number 1 priority is going to be re-signing Cam Reddish. I thought he had a really good season for us, particularly after the All-Star break, where he played outstanding. 15 points per game on really solid efficiency. Really the best basketball of his career, and we're hoping he can keep that up for us as we look to extend him as a long-term piece of the future. He doesn't want too much money, so we're going to offer him a 4-year contract for $32 million. I think that's honestly a bargain for a player of Cam Reddish's caliber. After him, though, I had a hard time figuring out who I would like to go after, so I did some digging. I found some young players who I might be interested in, but we would need to clear up some cap space. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to start with the trade in Isaiah Hartenstein and a future 2 to the Spurs for a future 1 via the Chicago Bulls. Hartenstein's going to be kind of out of the rotation next year with the selection of Ahmed Kabongo, and I think Hartenstein really fits what the Spurs like. And no, it's not just because he's international. He is actually a pretty intriguing, versatile big, and I do think he fits what the Spurs would want. We're also trading Josh Minott to the Grizzlies for 2 future seconds, so we add 3 additional draft picks. We clear up some money. We trade away 2 players who weren't going to really be getting many minutes for us next year. So with our other 2 offers in stage 1, we're going to start with Kobe White from the Chicago Bulls, a former top draft pick who hasn't really worked out. He's coming off the worst season of his career. I think a split between White and the Bulls could do well for both parties. The other player we're going to go after is another Bulls guard. It's Ayo Dosunmu, picked in the second round a few years ago. He's been pretty solid for them. So we're hoping one of Ayo or Kobe White signs with us, and one of them can join quickly as one of the lead guards off the bench. So all 3 players accept. Now, White and Dosunmu were both restricted. I can't imagine the Bulls are going to match both. So I would like to think we're going to get at least one of them. The Bulls match the offer for White, and they match the offer for Dosunmu. So both players are going back to the Bulls, and we got to go back to square one. So we start with Kevin Porter Jr., a channel favorite. It would be pretty fun to bring him and Cam Reddish back together. It seems like we can't escape these two. so I figured why not. We're also going to shoot an offer towards Tre Jones. Literally half of our roster went to Duke, so it's kind of fitting, and he's a solid young player. He averaged 8.5 and 5.5 last year with the Spurs. I'm really looking for more guards off the bench because when Jalen Brunson got hurt, Emmanuel Quickley was the only true guard on the roster. The other player we're going to offer is Kyle Kuzma. He was kind of a disappointment after being traded to the Dallas Mavericks. He does want more money than we can afford, so this one doesn't feel as likely. But I do think he'd be a pretty good fit with our team, so we're going to offer him 1 year, $10.85 million, and he unsurprisingly declines. So we're going to simulate the moratorium once again, and Kevin Porter Jr. and Tre Jones both accepted. Porter is restricted, Tre Jones is not, as the Rockets match the offer sheet for Porter, so we are once again not going to get him. That brings us into stage 3 of free agency, and, well, at this point, I don't really know what I want to do. We have Cam Reddish, we have Tre Jones. I'm interested in maybe acquiring one of those power forwards because I am considering trading Julius Randle, and I thought about it for a little bit, but why rush trading Julius Randle? He is under contract for quite a while. He has up to 3 more years of team control left, so I feel like with his value being lower than it's been in a while, there's not really a point to trading him and signing a guy like Kuzma or Cam Johnson or Grant Williams, so why even bother? Honestly, there aren't really many other players I'm that interested in the free agency, to be honest. I'm not going to sign somebody just to sign somebody. So we are simulating all the way to the end of free agency, and let's take a look around what happened in the rest of the league. The only 2 guys we ended up signing were Cam Reddish and Tre Jones. So most of the top free agents returned to their previous teams. James Harden, Chris Middleton, and Kyrie Irving all signed extensions. Irving's was a 5-year supermax, but the Nets didn't sign him to keep him. This is actually a sign and trade. Kyrie Irving is going to the Memphis Grizzlies, and you're probably thinking, Memphis? Why would he want to go to Memphis? Well, he really wanted to sign the 5-year extension so he could make the most amount of money possible, but he also wanted to get out of Brooklyn. Him and Kevin Durant were butting heads, and he wants to join forces with Ja Morant. I know this doesn't look like a great return. The Nets are getting back David Roddy, Kennedy Chandler, and 2 first-round picks, but you got to realize, 1, this is Kyrie Irving. He's a wild card off the court, and 2, this is a sign and trade. He was going to be gone anyway. The Nets don't really have much leverage. So you'd probably think, is Kevin Durant next? Well, not exactly. So Kevin Durant wants to stick around, although he doesn't seem overly sure about it. So the Nets ended up acquiring Kyle Lowry from the Heat. Kyle Lowry's kind of cooked, and they just signed Derrick Rose, so they don't really need him, which is why he didn't fetch a big offer. Only Day'Ron Sharpe and a first-round pick. But Kyle Lowry is a player that Kevin Durant wanted to play with, and maybe KD can get the best out of Kyle Lowry at 37 years old. The Nets as a team don't look that spectacular, but Kevin Durant is planning on giving it one more run. I think KD kind of wants his own team just to show that he doesn't need other stars around him to win. And if the Nets are pretty good, maybe they do make a move at the deadline. Maybe a guy like Levi Beauregard ends up being a really good trade chip. However, if the Nets are struggling by the deadline, don't be surprised to see Kevin Durant possibly on the move out of Brooklyn. So it'll be very fascinating to follow the Nets early in the season. Along with Kyrie, Harden, and Middleton, the biggest free agent to lead their team is Kristaps Porzingis, who ironically signs with the Spurs. Maybe they do the thing for foreign bigs. The Warriors are running it back. They re-signed Poole, Wiggins, and Draymond. D'Angelo Russell signs with the Jazz. Vucevic to the Pacers. Miles Bridges, 27 days, 27 nights to Detroit. The Warriors also somehow signed Miles Turner for cheap. Kyle Kuzma goes to OKC. Harrison Barnes to the Jazz. Derrick Rose to the Heat. Bojan Bogdanovic joins, ironically, the Pistons. So there you go. Not an overly wild free agency, minus whatever the hell is going on in Brooklyn. The Nets have so much disarray. It's kind of nice being the competent New York team for once. We have done a great job of accumulating assets for the future, but we didn't make that big move this offseason, and that's fine. And that's fine, because I think we're doing a great job of accumulating assets who could be used in a big-time trade in the future. We're the New York Knicks. We need star-relevant players. The NBA is a better product when the New York Knicks are good, because New York City is one of the biggest markets in the entire world, and it's inexcusable that this Knicks team has been unable to land star players. I think something that we've really tried to do is grab players who have connections to other guys around the league. And there are two stars who could be on their way out in the future who make a lot of sense for us. The first one being Shai Gilgeous-Alexander from the Oklahoma City Thunder. SGA has been with the Thunder for 4 years now. OKC has been continuously tanking, and although their roster is really starting to get better, and they were the 11th seed in the Western Conference last year, if OKC doesn't take a step up in a year or two, SGA could ask out. The connection we have with him is with RJ Barrett. Both players are Canadian. Both players entered the league around the same time, so hopefully there is a mutual friendship between the two of them. Maybe RJ Barrett can do some tampering and try to get Shai Gilgeous-Alexander convinced that the Knicks are the spot to be. Lou Dort is also Canadian on this team, so we can get a 2-for-1, that'd be great. This is the initial offer we're starting with. Zeke Naji, Emmanuel Quickley, and 3-1s for Shai and Dort. Obviously, they're going to say no, but it's just a starter. We just want to get our feet wet. Jalen Brunson would probably be in a realistic Shai Gilgeous-Alexander deal, but I would like to hold on to Jalen Brunson for now, see what he does early in the season, see if he can improve his value, and maybe eventually we do look to move on from him for a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, because I think that could make a lot of sense for us. I think SGA fits the swagger and the type of personality you need to be a star in New York, and I think he could be a really good fit for us if he doesn't want to stay in Oklahoma City for the long haul. The other player who I think could really work is Zion Williamson from the Pelicans. This one is a little bit less likely, at least for the immediate future. Zion just signed a Supermax extension. The Pelicans are really, really good. They just traded for DeAndre Ayton. So you'd think Zion would be in a good situation. And I would say, at least in a basketball perspective, that is true. But maybe Zion wants out. Maybe he wants to play in a bigger market. When he entered the league, it was pretty clear that he wanted to play in New York. And, well, we have done a good job of acquiring some of Zion's buddies. Look how many Duke players we have on the roster. Remember Duke's 2018 legendary recruiting class? They got 4 5-stars that year. One of them was Zion Williamson. You know who the other 3 were? RJ Barrett, who plays for the Knicks, Cam Reddish, who plays for the Knicks, and then Trey Jones, who we just signed. Those 4 guys seem to have a very close relationship the year that they were at Duke together. 3 of them are on the same team. Wouldn't it make perfect sense to finish the Infinity Stones and grab Zion Williamson? Not to mention we have other Duke guys like Wendell Moore, Trevor Keels, and Splash Mayo. That's 6 players on our roster who played at Duke. So we've got a lot of guys who have a relationship with Zion Williamson, added on to the fact that Zion wanted to play in New York to begin with. So I really think if the Pelicans aren't a contender, we can try to get Zion to force his way to the Knicks. Would it be playing dirty? Yes. Would it be worth it for us? Yes, absolutely. As I said earlier, I think this one's a little bit less likely for the immediate future than Shai Gilgeous-Alexander because Zion's on a better team, Zion's a better player, Zion's a bigger asset than SGA, point blank, period. So we would have to try to get him to really force his way to the Knicks. We don't want Shai Gilgeous-Alexander or Zion Williamson requesting trades within the next year. We want them forcing their way to New York, and I think New York would be a really good landing spot for both of those guys. That way, the other team doesn't have a lot of leverage in trade talks, and we can get the best value possible. So that's sort of where my head's at. The Knicks are playing chess, not checkers right now. We're in it for the long haul, as you can see. So as we go into player progression, not many major changes for the most part. A few guys going up, a few guys going down, but really nothing all that spectacular, which I guess isn't really a surprise. Cam Reddish going up by 2 is kind of nice. Some of the rookies mysteriously kind of changed ratings a little bit, but that's not a super big deal. Quentin Grimes and Wendell Moore going up by 2 is pretty nice as well, but again, overall, nothing overly substantial. So that brings us towards the end of the offseason. We start with the NBA Summer League. We're going to go through this pretty quickly. We're going to add some undrafted players to the Summer League roster. We do have a lot of our young guys here. Obviously, no Cesar DiCarlo or Splash Mayo. Both of them are injured. But this will be a good opportunity to see some of our rookies along with some of our second-year guys and, I guess, Quentin Grimes as well. We do own 5 open roster spots, and there are some pretty good undrafted free agents. We're going to add point guard Alexander Swift III out of Drexel, talented young player. Hector George-Strada, the forward out of Mexico, good 3-and-D guy. He's going to be added to the Summer League team. Marcus Hill out of North Carolina. I'm very surprised he went undrafted, so we're going to add him. Victor Moses, a talented center, 72 overall. He will join the team. And then for our last spot, there weren't really many other undrafted free agents I was super interested in, so I went for Bol Bol. We've got some history of Bol Bol on the channel from the Sonic series last year. So this is what the lineup is going to look like for the Summer League. Pretty much everybody's going to be getting minutes for the most part. So hopefully some of these young guys can really prove themselves. Maybe one or two of these undrafted guys can leech onto our roster or any NBA roster with good play in the Summer League. So we ended up going 3-0 in the regular season with our point differential being at around 30. That's pretty good. We ended up as the #1 overall seed in all of Summer League, and it was a very well-rounded team. We had, I think, 7 guys average double figures. Wendell Moore led the way with 15.5 points, but this was really a team effort. Everybody played into their role. Nobody got super big minutes. This is sort of about everybody playing, everybody getting a chance to prove themselves. So our first matchup in the second round, because we got a bye, is against the Charlotte Hornets, led by some interesting young players. Of course, they had 2 lottery selections this year. We would end up winning by 17. Ahmed Kabongo led the way with 23. Hill and Cherry also in the double figures. James Bouknight led Charlotte with 19. We have had a lot of guys get injured in the Summer League, though. That's kind of unfortunate as we get ready to play against the Chicago Bulls here in the quarterfinals. And it looks like the Bulls might have this beat pretty close in the fourth, but Chicago is going to hold on. So no Summer League championship here for the Knicks. Wendell Moore at 22. 5 guys in the double figures. For the Bulls, Santi Aldama with 24. And to add salt in the wound, Ayo Dosunmu played really well too. The Bulls made it to the Summer League final, but lost to Johnny Davis, Jamison Xander, and the Washington Wizards. Probably the only championship the Wizards are going to win in quite a while. So the All-Star festivities will be in Memphis this year. As for the draft classes, I have not started construction on next year's draft classes yet, but if you do want to submit a player, make sure to go and join the Discord. Link is in the description. We do have to clear up 2 more roster spots, so we're going to trade Zeke Naji and a second-round pick via the Lakers to the Pelicans for a first-round pick via the Lakers. With adding Patrick Feinstein and Ahmed Kabongo, I just don't really think we need Zeke Naji anymore. And then Quentin Grimes is going to the Suns for a first-round pick in about 4 years from now, and a second. I didn't really want to trade anybody away, but I had to, and those were the 2 guys who I was willing to move on from. So this is what the lineup looks like going into season number 2. The starting lineup is the exact same how we ended it off last year. And then as for the bench, we've got the top 4 guys pretty much set in stone. And then the bottom 2 spots, we're going to have Jones, Brown, Watkins, and Cherry all compete for those spots until Splash Mayo and Cesar DiCarlo eventually come back from injury, probably halfway through the season. So that's going to wrap up the episode. Let me know what you thought of our offseason down below, the draft and free agency. Again, I know it wasn't a super exciting free agency for us. All we really did was add Trey Jones. But as I explained towards the middle of the episode, I'm really focused on the long haul about adding assets to be acquiring a star player like an SGA or a Zion Williamson down the line. We're really playing the long game, and we're not trying to rush anything. Next episode, we will kick off our season with opening night at the Garden against Kevin Durant, our new rival, I guess, Levi Beauregard, and the Brooklyn Nets. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Peace out.